I want to talk about children, specifically the child that we are, the inner child, that fragile, loving, sometimes not being that exists within us. We've got no hope in this life of ever progressing on an interpersonal level, on a spiritual level, psycho, spiritual, mental, physical, all of that, until we reach the point where we understand what it means to be the parent to the child within. We have to consolidate the two. We have to meet in the middle because we have we are always in touch with the inner parent, but because of the conditioning of society, because of the context of our life experiences, that parent turns into the inner critic, which is obviously an imbalance. If parents aren't supposed to be negative towards their children, they're supposed to be balanced. They're supposed to come in an energy of what is right and just. So, on one hand, we have this inner child who, despite what we're led to believe, has an inordinate amount of strength and power, and children can be manipulative. You know, children are basically energy vampires and narcissists because they're taught how to get what they want. As soon as they're born, they understand, they create a template, they cry to achieve a certain goal. And then we grow up a bit and then we develop language, so then we just use magic words to get what we want. And so that wild child who throws temper tantrums still exists within us. So the balance is allowing yourself to give yourself what that child needs, but not letting the child take the piss. Because, for example, children find comfort in sugary substances, in sweets and chocolate. And now, as a child, it's not it's not as um what do I want to say? For a child to spend 10 years of their life eating sweets and chocolate and biscuits every day, it's not necessarily as catastrophic as it would be for an adult to maintain that, because children are still growing, their teeth are still developing every day. So for me, sugary substances have played a massive part in my healing, to allow that craving, to understand that that is just a mechanism that I developed, like a false substitute for love. You know, you have these grandparents who thrive in being able to just like throw sweets and ice creams at their grandchildren without any guilt and without any repercussions, because they don't have to deal with the consequences of the hyperactivity and stuff. And also, they don't want to be a bad person, they want to be seen as somebody who can just let the children have what might be seen as fun. So I've had to sit in that density of the energy of just like eating biscuits, and but then it gets to the point where you have to step in as the parent and say no, 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 no. Because yeah, little child, you eat all of the sweets you want, but you're actually using my adult teeth. Yeah? So, learning to say no to yourself is powerful medicine. Because in doing that, we're actually taking care of the child properly. I had an incident once with a child which was not mine. I did not father this child, but I always have the interests of others at heart, like the true interests, what is right. And so this child spent a lot of time on the internet of a night on a laptop, like all through the night. And once it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I went into this child, and she was on the laptop, and I said to her, "I'm going to take the laptop off you now." And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I love you. Because I don't care about what you want. I care about what you need." And she typically would offer up resistance to this type of thinking, but in that moment, because it was coming from a place of pure love, she just gave the laptop to me, and then she tried to get some sleep. And that's what it's about, knowing what's actually best, but also not being so rigid to try and create order that you completely remove the rights of the child. We have to reason. The reason why there's so much mental illness in this world is because people aren't aware that there's often conflicting voices, but they're all coming from the same source. There's a parent, there's a child. The child represents freedom to do what we want. The parent represents order and structure. That's the balance. As children, we were suppressed by a rigid system of oppression and control. So we rebelled against it or got swallowed up by it. And the ones that rebelled, we have to reverse engineer that rebellion as much as we have to unlearn and relearn everything that was thrust upon us. Because rebellion at its heart is the nature of evolution. But our own personal rebellion, that might be a different matter. So we have to unpick that, unpack it, and repurpose it. I've spent a lot of my adult life doing things just because I wasn't allowed to do them as a child, or they were frowned upon, or it doesn't mean they're good. As a child, I spent a lot of time watching television and even staying up after hours and watching films on Channel 4, which at the time, it really expanded my horizons and opened my mind up to the world at large and the bigger picture. But at the same time, on a physical level, it's not ideal for children to be up when they should be asleep or getting up extra early to be transfixed by this box. And it all comes back to love, true love. Sometimes we just accept things because we think acceptance is a form of love. Well, it is. Acceptance is a part of love. But just because we can accept something doesn't mean we should stand for it in our life. Acceptance without acceptance without change or taking steps to not have to accept because the situation is different is just being a doormat. Do you even notice the words that you're offering up to that inner child? That precious seed of God A lot of the time, what we're telling that little child is just a reverberation of what other people have been telling that child since it was just a child. We can't let the child run rampant because that's a child with the powers of an adult. I keep coming back to this African proverb, and I think I always will because it really resonates with me. I feel it. An angry child will burn down a village to feel its warmth. And yeah, we are fire starters, but we have to understand the power of fire. Once you start a fire, you have to be willing to know that fire can be all encompassing. It is a powerful force of nature. So if you don't possess the water, things can get out of control very quickly. I just want to end this message by speaking directly to that little child who has been through so much hurt, so much confusion, trauma, pain, looking out at this tiny dot in a expansive world which seems to be just full of suffering and misery. And I want to say, children stick together, right? We're not the Lost Boys. We're Peter Pan. I love you.